Hello everyone, welcome to the Ranting Shop. This is Melissa. Today we're going to be talking about Put a Ring on It Season 2, Episode 3. So, in this particular episode, the couples had a very daunting challenge, and that is they had to have their dates with their partners. So, for example, I would go out on a date with someone, and my partner would also have to go out on a date with someone, but in the same vicinity. So that seemed like the most challenging thing that these couples had to go through for this particular episode. In general life, this doesn't happen, so it had to have been extremely awkward. So we're gonna start first with Eric and Jessica. So my overall assessment of Eric and Jessica is that, especially from today's episode, is that this couple is a superficial union, a union that was based solely on how each other looked. So that speaks towards Jessica's insecurity and maybe also Eric's insecurities, because in this episode we found out that Jessica holds on to her external beauty and uses it as if it holds leverage in the relationship. And we all know that for longevity, beauty does not do anything for a relationship. I mean, what can somebody do with beauty? I mean, beauty is beauty, it's there. How would it be able to strengthen a relationship? A relationship cannot be based solely on one's physical appearance. So that's one of the major red flags that I saw of Eric and Jessica's relationship today. However, I did notice that Eric's demeanor when the date came in was extremely different from how it's been previously. He seemed more calm, he seemed more respectful, and he seemed more accepting of the process. It could also be that he was intimidated by this particular date, because as he mentioned, this date had a lot of muscles, but we shall see. When Eric's date comes in, I noticed that she looks exactly like Megan Thee Stallion, and the first thing Eric does is point out that his date or his other, now you guys notice that we didn't see them letting the women come to meet the men. We only saw the men coming to meet the women on this particular date. But anyways, Eric comes in, he's looking everywhere, and I believe he was searching for Jessica, looking to see where she was. And she goes, when Eric comes in. Anyways, Eric and the date have a really nice conversation. He says that he didn't even notice them. I don't believe that that's true. Perhaps he didn't notice them as time went by, but when he just came in, he definitely noticed Jessica and her date. He said that he had some great conversations with Miss Megan Thee Stallion, and everything was really good. Jessica's conversations with her date seemed to be okay as well. She likes to argue. The date was like, I don't like arguing, so if you want to argue, we will deal with the conversation after you've allowed your emotions to calm down. Jessica was offended that Eric had the audacity to say that that was one of his best conversations with the date, and immediately Jessica is trying to elevate herself in that regard and say, oh, I thought we had really good conversations, but I feel like she was missing the point. The conversations may seem good to you, but in comparison to the conversations he's had with you, he felt like the conversation with the date was much better because it was more in depth. And that is something that he said he lacked in his relationship, depth. But at the end of the day, I have to hold Eric accountable, because you were attracted to Jessica for her looks. You were not attracted to her for her depth. So you're asking of her what you never really wanted from her in the beginning. So that's interesting. I feel like when he mentions the fact that the date and him had one of the best conversations he's ever had, she's coming to the realization that looks are okay initially, but they're not a solid base to stand on. And she's realizing that her beauty is not going to be able to sustain this relationship, and I believe that is why she broke down. In their assessment of their dates, they both mentioned how they got more depth from their conversations outside of the relationship. Particularly, Eric said that, and Jessica said it wasn't always about the looks, it was just about him listening and stuff like that. So they both know that the relationship is based on superficiality, and that scares Jessica. And I feel like Eric is looking for more at this point, but people say men are visual creatures and they tend to put looks above everything. And I believe we've all realized that until they notice that later down in the relationship there needs to be something more to hold me than just her looks. You know what I mean? And they're both coming to that realization. Now, when they came to the meeting area, Eric decided he didn't want to continue on another date with the woman that he had such great conversation with, because he's still on that superficial level. He's still thinking in regards to looks. And although he appreciates the depth, he just cannot look past the fact that he's not attracted to her, I guess. And she was happy, of course. She's smiling. Oh, yes, I won again. Which I don't like, because at the end of the day, it's not a win. It's not necessarily a win. There's always going to be another date. I don't understand. I really am curious to see how she acts when he actually does decide to go on another date with a woman. I feel like that will crush her, because she's in a space of constantly feeling threatened by outside forces, and those outside forces are other women. And if you don't feel confident in yourself, you will always feel insecure. No amount of beauty, Instagram validation, or anything is gonna prevent you from feeling confident if you're not feeling internally confident. So Jessica decided to go out on another date with her date. That's okay, that's cool. Sometimes I feel like they're just trying to get the better of each other, but that's all I have for Jessica and Eric. Now let's move on to LaRonda and Sean. As I mentioned last time, they're in an emotionally manipulative relationship. Why? Because it appears like every time we go to the deliberation, they always have these passive-aggressive comments that are used to control each other. And being in a relationship where you feel bound by your partner's reaction to things is not a place that you want to be in, because it's a trap. You feel trapped by their responses and reactions. They feel trapped by your responses and your reactions. And there is almost like not a safe space for neither of them to be vulnerable. There's not a safe space for either of them to be comfortable, to be honest. And if there's no honesty in a relationship, how successful is that relationship going to be long term? So they need to work on that. So the date, first of all, I noted that LaRonda is ironing this grown man's clothes, and I'm like, you see, they're giving me that mommy child vibe that is like, it's crazy. Her date comes in, he opens the door, of course. Then he gets to questioning. He's like, why did you decide to do this experience, considering she's my woman? And he's like, well, you never know, well, you'll find love. And then Sean's like, well, you're not going to find it with my woman. And then I noted clearly what LaRonda said. LaRonda was like, well, there, Sean. We never know. This is what the dates are for. So you notice her response was like counter to his response. So in that sense, she was not necessarily coddling him in his feelings of insecurity. She was like, you could feel as insecure as you want. At the end of the day, the reality of the situation is this is why we're doing this experience, And I feel like when she responds to things that way, that is how she has control over him in the relationship, because he's in a sense of almost like he's trying to assess where she is, and he does not know where she is. Is she with me? Is she outside? Is she up on the top? Is she at the bottom? He cannot get an accurate assessment of where she is mentally in the relationship, and that makes him insecure, because it keeps him on his feet, and she likes it like that because she knows she has the upper hand. It's like when you don't show your next move, the person is constantly left worrying, trying to figure out what will it be. I mean, will it be to my detriment? Will it be to my benefit? So she plays on that, and I feel like she likes that power dynamic that she has in that regard. So they go out and stuff like that. And then Sean's date comes in, and first of all, this whole date idea of having your partner be on another date in earshot of you is ridiculous, because it's like, how is the person supposed to fully speak and engage with the person they're on a date with if their partner is in earshot of what they're saying? I feel like that is ridiculous. I mean, everybody could be in the same room, but not that close. Come on, like that was pushing it. Not that close, to the point where I could hear you mentioning my name, to the point where I could hear you talking about me in a not necessarily positive way. I don't feel like that was a great idea for this episode. Now, Sean mentions, his date is cool, she's fine and everything. She's also in the entertainment industry like him, so she could relate to the fact that it's a struggle. It's not a consistent job. It's not a consistent, you don't get finances on a consistent basis. So she relates to him on that. LaRonda can't. LaRonda is not an entertainer, and so he bonds with the date on that. However, he can't go too much further into the conversation because he's busy looking at what LaRonda is doing with her date, and he just cannot seem to really pay attention. And the date notices that. She sees how distracted Sean is, and for me, if I were her, I would feel like, okay, I need to go now because this is pointless, because he looked so uncomfortable and he looked so distracted. because his attention was on Laronda, and Laronda is trying. She sees him and she acknowledges that he's there, but she doesn't allow that to distract her from her date. And you see, that's the thing about Laronda and Sean. Laronda maintains control by not visibly showing her hand. If she's nervous, she will keep that internally. She would not express it externally. If she's scared, keep it inside, not express it. So he does not see that from her physically, and that scares him and bothers him. And she knows that. He, on the other hand, if he's nervous, you'll see. If he's scared, you'll see. If he's upset, you're going to see. So he doesn't have that same ability to have this poker face that she has. Okay, to his detriment, because it's like she will always have that one up on him in that regard. So as Laronda is leaving with her date, he kind of, touches her on the small of her back, and Sean realizes that, and that was the nail in the coffin. He was like, I was trying to listen to you, but at this point I cannot, because that was a dangerous move from that date. And he felt disrespected, and he felt the date was being disrespectful, and he felt like Laronda was being, I wouldn't say sneaky, but she was being too accommodating, I suppose, to that date. And Sean didn't appreciate that. So we come to the deliberation, and they address that small of your back touching moment, and Laronda insists that she didn't feel it. But Sean feels as if she's lying, because how could you not feel that? And my thing is, it's possible to have not felt it, because it could have been a touch that was ever so light that she barely felt his hand on her waist. You could have seen it, but that doesn't mean she felt it, Sean. So I feel like he, again, takes things too far. He makes things a bigger deal than it actually is. Why not just trust that she didn't feel it? Even if you saw he put his hands on the small of her back, that doesn't mean she felt it. Why can't you just take her word for it? It's his mind jumping to major conclusions again. It shows his insecurity. And Dr. Nicole tells them, you can't control your date. You can't control your partner. You need to come to the realization. All of these people, you cannot control what they do. You cannot assume that you being passive aggressive will keep them with you. You cannot assume that because you guys have years and years together that he wouldn't still do what he wants to do. Like, you need to come to the realization that your partner is an individual and they could literally do what they want. You cannot control them with emotion. You cannot control them with money. You cannot control them with looks. You really cannot control the partner. And all of these couples are just afraid to lose that control that they feel like they have over their partners. But they never really did have a control. But in this experiment, they're coming to that realization, So, who did what? So, Sean will not go on another date with the partner. We all saw that the connection wasn't all that. I mean, he wasn't really too interested in her. Laronda, on the other hand, we got some clickbait. So we are not going to see her reaction or what she says until next week. Now, if she does not go on another date with this man, it would be crystal clear at this point that she's just doing it to save her partner's feelings. So in a sense, she's trapping herself and locking herself into a situation because of her partner. If she does decide to go on a date with him, she is starting to be more open to the process. She's starting to and is willing to take the risk of having to deal with the emotion from her partner that would come with, and the insecurity and the breakdown and the tantrum and all these things that will come with her decision. So I feel like she says to us that she wants to go on another date with him, so go. At this point, go. Because as I said last time, this is not a show that tests each other's loyalty. This is not that show. This is a show where you need to willingly be open to explore other things in order for stuff to work, in order for things in your relationship to move or not move. You need to take that step. Now let's move on to Darian and Alexia. Their biggest issue is communication. You're not hearing each other. They may not even be understanding where each other is coming from. He goes on another situation with Kai. Kai feels as if she doesn't want to be considered a side chick because she's not a side chick. They go on the date in the restaurant. Alexia comes in with her date. She's not too physically attracted to him. However, he is flirtatious and charming and so on. Now, what is disrespectful is Alexia is having this date with this guy. And instead of her talking about her connection or herself with the date, she's talking about Darian. And I feel like she did that to kind of sabotage the relationship because she really wasn't interested in that particular date. And another thing she did that made me feel like she was not interested in the date was, you know, Darian felt like he just couldn't do it. The vibe was too awkward. She was right there. She could hear what they were saying about her. And he was just like, this is too awkward. I can't do it. And he gets up to go with Kai. And Kai holds his hands. And Alexia is on a date with somebody else, but says, you're going to let hands go. You're going to let hands go. And Darian is trying to show Alexia that, hey, it's not me holding her hands, it's her holding my hand. And I feel like with Darian, he acts like he doesn't want to do things with Kai, but he does. But in order for the blame not to be on him, he's gonna put it on Kai. Oh, Kai kissed me. Oh, Kai was the one that held my hands. Oh, Kai was the one that... You wanted to, Darian. Let's just cut the bull. You wanted to. You just are not willing to be honest with Alexia. Period. And that's it. This couple has been on and off for 14 years. Just last year, they were off. So they just tried something new this year. So at this point, their relationship is really on fickle grounds. It's on crumbly grounds. So I don't have much hope for them. But Darian clearly wants something new. He clearly wants to move on. It seems as if he feels trapped, so to speak. He seems like he wants to do certain things, but he just doesn't want to be honest. You know, and that's my issue with Darian. We come to the deliberation portion. Darian wants to go on another date with Kai because he feels as if this particular date was not fair to Kai because Alexia was there. I forgot to mention Alexia felt disrespected by Kai because when she said let hands go, Kai was laughing at her. So I don't know. I definitely feel Kai is there to taunt Alexia and she's there to tempt Darian. So we're gonna see how that goes. She's the ultimate decoy, you know, like on Maury when they had the sexy decoys, and which I thought was a dumb idea, but they had the sexy decoy and the stupid guys fell for it every time. She seems like a decoy. But anyways, Alexia wasn't interested in her date. We all saw that, so she did not want to go on another date with him. But he was cool, as she said. What did she say about him? I think she said it was cool and everything. She just wasn't that attracted to him. But he could be her friend. They could talk on a friendship level, but not on a intimate or relationship level. So that's it. So if we have to put a title on each of the couples, what shall we say? Jessica and Eric, superficial. Lack substance. Lack trust. What's the point? Lorenda and Sean, emotional manipulation. Lack of trust. Insecurity. Mad. Darian and Alexia, lack of communication. I feel there's a lack of honesty of what both of them want. And no transparency. Okay, so that's my assessment of all the couples. You guys let me know what you think. This was an assessment of the latest episode of Put a Ring on It. Like, subscribe if you like what I have to say. Don't just come and look and leave. Subscribe. Why not? I'm gonna be here. Okay, see you next time, you guys. Bye-bye.